Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. My name is John Cape. I'm the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, and we are here to talk about movie news and give you a little bit of insight into what it all means. Joining me, of course, is production manager of AMC Movie News, Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's kind of fitting that we've come back. We've come back to the original Movie Talk set.
Yeah, actually, for those of you who don't know, this is... if you've only been watching AMC Movie Talk for the last year or so, this is actually the original set for AMC. This was the desk. We sometimes had 4 people at this desk, often 3, 1 person in the middle, 2 people on each side. And the reason it's kind of fitting is because today, and the reason we're here today, and I'll fill you all in on that, is tonight, we are having a 100 million views celebration party at the Stream Studio. So the reason we're not shooting today's show in the studio is because all the crew and the staff are down at the studio getting it ready for the party tonight, which should be a lot of fun. And you should be watching the party tonight, by the way. You can watch it on our YouTube channel. It's the 100 million view celebration event. It's going to be at 6 p.m. Los Angeles time. That's 9 p.m. New York time. And make sure you tune in and watch. We're going to take some of your questions as well. And the whole crew is going to be there tonight. We're going to have a live studio audience filled with a lot of AMC Movie Talk viewers. Really excited about it. So Dennis and I thought, well, instead of not having a movie talk today, let's just do one really old school.
Super casual.
Super casual, super old school, and we'll go back to our roots. So that's what we're going to do. Before we get to the stuff, man, this week, that Sony hack.
Yeah.
I mean, the repercussions keep coming. For those of you who don't know about it, I mean, this Sony hack has been nuts because all anybody talked about at first when this whole Sony hack happened was which movies got leaked.
Yes.
Which movies got online. Turns out, which movies got leaked is not at all the story.
That's a tip of the iceberg.
Just the tip of it. Because, first of all, we see this huge meltdown, the drama behind what brought the Jobs movie, the movie that's going to be based on Steve Jobs, on a script written by Aaron Sorkin. Mm-hmm. Was supposed to be directed by David Fincher, apparently now supposed to be directed by Danny Boyle, has had different points, has had Leonardo DiCaprio, Christian Bale. Now they're talking about Jeff Daniels maybe playing Jobs, which seems like a weird choice to me. Seems a little old for that for me, but whatever. And the drama between that movie, leaving Sony and going over to Universal, and then the whole stuff about Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. We all knew, even though a lot of us never thought it would happen, but we knew that the two sides were at least talking, that Marvel and Sony at least had talks, and it talked about, what are the possibilities? What could we bring Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And apparently those talks all fell apart because of issues of control. And then there's stuff about Jonah Hill wanting to do a 23 Jump Street with a crossover with Men in Black. And it's just, and I've got a feeling, like you were saying, tip of the iceberg. I got a feeling even this is tip of the iceberg. Yeah. I got a feeling we're going to see a lot more.
Well, and also they've been leaking personal emails.
Yeah.
And just revealing stuff that are not even movie related.
Yeah.
That just are, causing all kinds of headaches for all the Sony employees and the executives too.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because the other day when we were talking about the Sony leak, we had... Oh gosh, about 15 minutes before we went to air, Christian Harloff and I were talking, and I said, it's funny because when I first read all this stuff, a part of me felt like we shouldn't even talk about it. Yeah. Because, though a lot of those emails were personal emails, meant to be private. Yeah. Like even ones between Amy Pascal and Scott Rudin about the whole Jobs thing. Yeah. Those were private emails. And I remember, I was telling Christian, I was thinking about us not talking about it. But then I thought, you know what? This is now out there. This is out there. It's not like we're going to be breaking this to people. This is now out there, so we might as well comment on it.
Yeah,
but I struggled with it.
It's in the gray area. And then there's also what I was talking about is these emails that have nothing to do with movies that also have been leaked. That, let's say Variety is reporting that don't have anything to do with movies. That's kind of where it's like, wow, okay, that's personal type of stuff.
Yeah. Amy Pascal is sleeping around with Christian Bale. I mean, no, that was, by the way, that was not in the emails, just so you know. But yeah, it's kind of creepy and it continues to unfold. And I guess we're going to get even more of a look into the behind the curtain of the Hollywood studio system in the next little while. But I said this on the show the other day. What really stands out to me about, and I think there's an important lesson here for all film fans as well, is that it's human beings. You know, we think of Hollywood and we think of the studios as this big corporate machine, almost, you know, run by robots and algorithms and things like that. And we forget that these are actually just real people making these decisions and having arguments and having fights and feeling hurt and getting their feelings hurt and feeling insulted and firing back and lashing out. And it's like, it's a really actually a cool reminder for all of us that these things are run by people. And it's
people with egos,
and
feelings.
We saw a little bit of that in the emails.
Yeah, I think there was a whole thing about. I think Angelina Jolie had wanted David Fincher for her movie.
That was one of the key things that led to the whole downfall of Jobs being at Sony. Was that, you know, Scott Rudin wanted David Fincher on Jobs. Apparently, David Fincher wanted to do Jobs, but also at Sony was Angelina Jolie, who was supposed to star in a Cleopatra movie. And Angelina Jolie, look, this is all our interpretation of the emails. Okay, this is all coming from these emails. You know, Angelina Jolie was mad because she wanted David Fincher on Cleopatra. Yeah. And that was the start of the crumbling relationship between Scott Rudin, and who's the producer of the films, and Amy Pascal, who is the co-chairman of Sony. Because Amy Pascal wanted to, you know, placate the movie star. She wanted to say, look, we need to take a meeting with Angelina Jolie to make her feel better about this. And Scott Rudin is writing back to her, like, basically, I'm using family-friendly language here, because Scott Rudin did not. But he's basically saying, screw her. She's just, and he starts insulting Angelina Jolie. She's a talentless whatever and blah, blah, a spoiled brat. This is not her movie. These are our movies. We will do what we want. Why are you even, you know, what's the word when a parent does something that just feeds into their child's behavior? I can't remember, but basically that's what he's saying. You're just feeding her behavior. No, we should not take this meeting. And she was like, no, we got to meet with her. And then she starts talking with David Fincher and just it became such a mess. Yeah.
Well, if you're David Fincher, though, you're pretty stoked. You're like, wow, all these people fighting over me.
Everybody wants me.
I must be doing pretty well.
All right. Well, listen, we got a few movie items we're going to talk about today. Some big ones, some small ones, whatever. We're just going to sit around and talk today. But this thing came out that's pretty interesting. We all saw the Star Wars trailer. That's been out now for a couple of weeks. I think it's 2 weeks ago now that's come out. And now Lucasfilm and Disney are releasing the names of the characters that we saw in that trailer, which I thought was pretty. And the way they're introducing them is on Topps cards, like baseball cards. So you got Star Wars baseball cards, and a whole bunch of these images have come out. So let's start with this one. The Oscar Isaacs character that we see piloting the X-Wing. That character's name is Poe Dameron. Okay? The Daisy Ridley character who we saw on the speeder bike, that character's name is Rey, R-E-Y. John Boyega's Stormtrooper character, probably the most prominent character we see in the trailers. His name is Finn. And then that dark cloaked figure, I'm not going to say Sith figure because at this point we don't know if it was Sith or not just because they were wearing black. But that figure's name is Kylo Ren. And the ball R2 droid, I guess it's not an R2 droid, that droid's name is BB-8. Now, okay, these all sound like Star Wars names. I play the Star Wars role-playing game, and these all sound like names that we would use in our Star Wars role-playing game. And yes, I'm not talking about one of the computer. I'm talking dice, pencil, character sheets, the whole bit.
The real nerdy stuff.
Nerd, like full-blown nerd, all right? But the most interesting one, and let's bring up this picture with the lightsaber in it. The most interesting one that I thought was fascinating was the Kylo Ren card. And what was interesting about the Kylo Ren card is there has been some speculation because of the way that person with the lightsaber is moving. Those movements look awfully similar to, what's the actress's name? The girl from Game of Thrones.
She plays Brienne of Tarth.
I can't remember her name. But yes, the girl from Game of Thrones. Yeah. A lot of people thought, I bet you anything that's her. And that theory has been gaining so momentum.
Gwendolyn Christie, I think?
Yes, that's it. Or Gwyneth, or something like that. That theory has been gaining momentum with a lot of people. But on this card, look at the wording. Actually, Jonathan and I were just talking about this before we started the show. Kylo Ren ignites his lightsaber. Yeah. So now everybody is going to be going off, well, then this must be Adam Driver. Must be Adam Driver. we still don't know for sure, but if you had to take a guess at this point, now that we know it can't be, I mean, unless Gwendolyn is playing a male character. I mean, it's not like that's never been done in Hollywood before, but I doubt she is. So with that in mind, who do you think?
I'd put my money on Adam Driver. I mean, when he first got cast, that was like the initial thought that he was going to play some sort of like Sith Lord.
Yeah.
So I think it's him. I put my money on him.
He's got a dirty kind of I'm evil look to his face, doesn't he?
Yeah, and also like his like how skinny he is, and just like it just looks like him.
But I mean, yeah, and you know what? I was watching another trailer today. He just did a comedy this past year. Adam Driver just did a comedy with Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, I saw that. I actually liked that
indie film. What was the name of that indie film again?
They changed the name because it was called something else in England, and they brought it over here.
Right. But I just watched a trailer for that again this morning. And I didn't realize how tall that dude is. Yeah. Adam Driver's a tall dude. And I remember at first when I saw this, I said, no, I don't think it's Adam Driver because the dude plodging through the woods, he kind of looks like he's big. He kind of looks like he's tall. And Adam Driver ain't that tall. Well, he is that tall, actually. I was wrong. He really is that tall. So maybe that could be him. I don't know. What do you think about the names, though? Like, that have come out of this?
Well, they all sound pretty, like you said, Star Wars-like names. The one that kind of makes me giggle a little bit, though, is the Poe Dameron. Just because, like, Poe, I think of P.O., like Po' Boy Sandwich or something like that.
It makes me think of Kung Fu Panda. Because I think isn't that the panda's name in Kung Fu Panda? Isn't his name Po? I think it is. Might be, yeah. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
Yeah. So that one kind of stood out. And then the one that I think is most fitting, though, is the soccer ball droid, the BB-8. That just sounds like a fun, cute name for a droid that I think kids are going to buy the toys with. I'm
fascinated to see how they're going to do that toy. I mean, just from a collector's point of view, I'm now fascinated how they're going to make this toy and how they're going to make that toy work. With a ball body that rolls and moves with a head that stays stationary. Mm-hmm. That should be pretty cool. And yes, the Jack Black's character's name in Kung Fu Panda is Po. So that's the first thing that went through my head when I read that name. His name's Po? Really? Okay. And then Finn, being John Boyega's name, isn't that the same name of the male character in Tangled? I think. I was like, now possibly. I got to look that up too.
I mean, that one sounds the most like... or at least Star Wars like Finn. That sounds almost like a modern day. Actually,
sorry. Zachary Levi's name in Tangled was actually Flynn. Okay. I was close. It was Flynn, not Finn. So I was going to say, wait, Disney using the same names? The girl's name Rey, R-E-Y.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not a big departure from like Harrison Ford, right? I mean, Han, Leia, Luke. Chewbacca, I don't know.
Yeah, and also, like, you never know, like, maybe these names could be alter egos to someone's true name if they're in hiding or something like
that. Darth Badass. Yeah, his name's Kylo, whatever. What's the Sith's name again?
Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren, but really it's Darth Badass. It's not going to really be Darth Badass. All right, let's move on to the next thing here. This is interesting we heard a while ago, we've heard a couple times about different video game companies wanting to actually get into the movie making business, and that I think it was about a year and a half ago, Blizzard said, or was announced that Blizzard was going to be developing their own kind of feature film project arm or whatever, and we know that they're starting moving and stuff. Apparently now, Sega, of all the video game companies, Sega apparently is getting into the feature film and television department. They've merged with another company to make a new company called Stories International. Mm-hmm. Which is basically run and created by Sega. And Stories International is going to be a group that will produce films, TV shows, and entertainment for digital platforms. And apparently what they're going to start, and we're talking about some animated stuff, but also live action features, what they say. Live action feature films. And they're going to start with these games. They don't say which ones will be featured films and which one will be for television, but here's what they said they're starting with. Altered Beast, Streets of Rage, Shinobi, Rise of Nightmares, Crazy Taxi, Virtua Fighter, and Golden Axe. So those are the ones they're starting with. And once again, they don't say in the report which ones they're targeting as feature films, which ones they're targeting as whatever. But Dennis, what do you think when you hear Sega? Because I don't think of Sega having the most iconic lineup of video games. But what do you think of them getting into this game? And then what do you think of the titles that we just listed off?
I mean,
like which ones would you see being targeted for feature film?
I mean, I was a huge Sega fan. Like there was like back in the 90s, there was like the whole Sega Genesis versus Super Nintendo, and you kind of had to like pick a side, and I picked the Sega side. That was like the my first encounter with like fanboyism, you know, like where people were battling it out. But at the same time, this is like 15, 20 years too late for them.
Yeah.
They should have been doing this. I mean, that was at the height of their popularity. Now, like Sega, they still make games that people buy and enjoy, but they just aren't the brand that they used to be. So if they're going that route, it just seems so late in the game. I mean, their biggest property is obviously Sonic, which has had a successful like cartoon and animated, but it's never gone to a feature film.
Which oddly enough, I don't see listed here. So maybe their rights have been bought out by somebody else. Because we know there are Sonic cartoons out there.
Yeah.
So their rights must have been bought out by another entertainment company at some point.
And then like Altered Beast is a classic, Golden Axe is a classic, Crazy Taxi, that kind of came out during the Dreamcast era, and a lot of people enjoyed it. I just don't know. I almost feel like they should put these out in either animated or live action like television shows and kind of like figure out which one's successful before bringing it over to feature film. Because I just don't know if any of these, you know, I love Streets of Rage and stuff like that. I don't know what Rise of Nightmares is.
The one that stands out to me instantly as, okay, if, and this is a big if any of these seem feasible and viable as potentially a feature film treatment out of the blocks, I'd say Shinobi. Mm-hmm. I mean, because it's a tried and true format. It's the ninja format, right? So, and then you can basically do whatever you want around that. So, and Shinobi's a recognizable name, one of the more recognizable names out of this. So if I were to put my money on anything, if I'm the new head guy of the Stories International for Sega, and I say, you pick one of these 8 that you're going to do a feature film on, I would do Shinobi. I think that one's got the biggest chance. It's got some name recognition. You can use some tried and true formulas to try to come out of the gate with a little bit of success. I don't know. What would you do?
I'd go Golden Axe. I just feel like fantasy is pretty
big right now.
Big right now, and I think you could do something with those, with that name and those characters. You had that dwarf character, you had the girl and the guy. So I feel like that's something you could build upon and create a whole fantasy world around.
Right.
Yeah, that one or Altered Beast, which is kind of a classic as well. But I would go with Golden Axe.
Okay, Golden Axe, Shinobi, and then the rest, who knows what they're going to do. And look, just because a company says they're going to do something, don't hold your breath. If I had to right now, absolutely had to put $100 down on, yes, one of these movies is going to get made and hit a theater near you, or no, it's not, and I had no choice, I had to put a bet down, I would put the bet on no, it won't happen. I'm not guaranteeing it won't happen. I'm just saying if I absolutely had to put $100 down right now, yes, they will happen, yet no, it won't, I would go no, it won't. What would you do?
I would probably go no, they won't, unless you counted like some sort of very, very limited release, you know, like where they make a movie and they release it in like 20 theaters nationwide. And, you know, I think what House of Dead was like a Sega property that like, that was... You know, I just don't see them having the cachet or the name recognition to pull it off. I would love them to do it, but it's just not the same. I'm actually more looking forward to, you know, Seth Rogen and his partner Evan Goldberg are doing that. What was it? What was that? I have the book. It was the like
Ready Player One.
No. It's basically about the Sega Genesis versus Super Nintendo.
That's right. I remember
something like
that
Battle of the Consoles or something like that. I have the ebook and I'm reading it right now. It's a fascinating read. It's kind of like what we were talking about yesterday with the whole McDonald's thing, where it's like it's not really about McDonald's. It's about the people and the struggle and behind it. And there's like this fascinating thing about how like Sega was an underdog and how they overcame that to battle and take market share away from Nintendo, which was a juggernaut at that time. So I'm really looking forward to that movie.
You know what I would love to see? Speaking about these real life things, the consoles, McDonald's, whatever. I know it sounds like a little bit of a hack off on Social Network, but honestly, I would love to see a movie, given the quote unquote David Fincher treatment, whoever, of the rise and fall of MySpace. I would be now, and not just because you and I have some very personal reasons.
Yes.
But beyond the personal reasons we have, I would actually quite be fascinated about the rise to power, because we saw in Social Network the rise to power of a big social media thing. But like, don't forget how we got onto this from Sega. I'm not sure. Yeah. Sorry, but just indulge me for a second. How a lot of people forget MySpace was huge and considered the Titanic. It was considered unsinkable. It was the biggest force online and will ever, and for a couple of years, it looked like forever and always it will be. Mm-hmm. Like, who's in your top 8 was the big thing. That was the thing. Who's in your top 8, you know? And then it almost feels like overnight it became obscure. Yeah. You know, and I would love to see a movie about that. All right, let's move on. Next topic here. This one, I totally forgot about this movie. Completely forgot about this movie. And I shouldn't, simply because of the cast. Sean Penn's got a new film coming out called The Gunman. It's got Sean Penn, Academy Award-winning Sean Penn. It's got Academy Award-winning Javier Bardem. It's got Ray Winstone, who I think is just one of the most solid character actors you could possibly get. You give me 100 of him, I'll make great movies for the rest of my life. Idris Elba. It's got a solid cast. The new trailer just dropped. Look for it on YouTube if you haven't seen it already. Called The Gunman. It's got the world of hitmen, you know, which is always fun and great for me. But you're adding this level of drama. Sean Penn, I can't even remember how old Sean Penn is now, but he looks better than I think has ever looked. I loved this trailer. I thought it was great. I like the beats of the trailer. I like how much of the movie it gave us. I like the performance. You can just tell this is not an action-centric film, although there's going to be a lot of action. This is going to be a character-centric film. I love the dialogue in it. I love these performers. I love these actors. This suddenly, and I forgot all about this movie. I remember we talked about this movie when it was first announced it was being made, and I totally forgot about it. And then the trailer drops this morning, and I'm like, oh my God, this one is probably going to end up in my top 10. Next week, we're doing an AMC special on top 10 most anticipated films 2015. And I got to tell you, as of right now, I think this one is going to end up on that list for me. But anyway, you saw the trailer today. What do you think about it?
I actually wasn't that impressed with the trailer. I thought the trailer was okay. It was just a bunch of stuff that we had already seen before. However, I am excited because of the cast, like you mentioned before. I mean, Idris Elba is also, he didn't win an Oscar, but he was Oscar nominated. Ray Winston has been in a bunch of, like,
I believe he's got a couple of Oscar nominations.
Really?
Too,
okay, yeah. And he's always great in whatever he's in. And the director is the director of the original Taken. So so that's a very, which is a very enjoyable. I didn't watch Taken 2, but a lot of people say that it wasn't as good. We have Taken 3 coming out. But that makes it much more interesting. And the fact that Sean Penn is taking a role like this makes me a lot more interested because Sean Penn doesn't do action, really. Yeah. I mean, he's been in some movies that he was in Gangster Squad. But
what a disappointment.
Yes.
That, honestly, seriously, probably the most, not worst movie of the past couple of years, but disappointing movies for me in the past couple of years. Because I was just talking about how we're going to do a most anticipated list. I remember when we did our most anticipated films list of 2013.
Yeah.
It was in my top 5 was Gangster Squad of most anticipated. And it's just a bad movie. Such a bad movie on so many different levels. But
anyway. but he doesn't typically take roles like that. I mean, this is where he's the lead guy. Yeah. He's an action star. He's I don't know how old he is, but he's
54.
54.
And he looks fantastic. At 54, he looks amazing.
But someone who has 2 Oscars under his belt taking a role like this, you got to think like, okay, maybe this is something worth checking out. So I think I'm more excited from that standpoint.
Okay, let's move on to the next thing. The next thing and the last official thing on our thing is, hey, Warner Brothers has been doing some shuffling, moving some things around. We heard last week that Pan has been moved 1 week. And now Jungle Book, not the one being done by Disney and directed by Jon Favreau. Jungle Book Origins, which is being done by Warner Brothers and directed by motion capture artist Andy Serkis, has been bumped from October of 2016 to October 6th, 2017. So it's been bumped a full year. No official word's been given about why they bumped it that long. This means there will almost exactly be 2 years difference between Jon Favreau's Jungle Book, which comes out October 9th, 2015 of this coming year, and now Andy Serkis' which comes out 2 years later. I have a big feeling it just has to do with scheduling and being able to get everybody together and make it. I don't think at this point, when no shooting has started, I don't think this indicates any problems at this point. This feels to me more like it's an issue of we couldn't start shooting when we wanted to. Now some things have happened. Maybe it's Andy Serkis. Maybe it's other people. Now the schedules have moved around. We got to push it back a year. But did you read this report, and do you think there were any flags, or do you think this is just a scheduling thing?
I thought it was kind of flagged just because, we just had that whole Star Trek thing with Roberto Orci, where a first-time director. Andy Serkis is he's not as inexperienced as Robert Orci in that realm, and he's done second unit directing for the Lord of the Rings franchise.
In some ways, he's more experienced than Roberto Orci.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely more experienced than Roberto Orci. But this is his first big feature film, so they're not taking it away from him, but I thought maybe he needs more time to develop it, pre-production. I don't know how involved he was in the pre-production aspect of Lord of the Rings. He may have just gone on for the second unit stuff, so that might possibly be it. I just think it's, when you're having two movies that are like basically the same story and you're debuting one 2 years later, that's not good for your movie.
Right. Yeah. No, it's true, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the guy. He's one of the better guys in the business right now. And let's just hope that this is not a bad sign, but who knows, maybe in a few weeks we'll find out. And Andy Serkis is no longer attached to direct it. I mean, who knows what's coming up. Well, folks, I think that'll do it for us. That's everything we had on our agenda for today. Thanks for joining us for this very odd, out-of-studio, more casual, laid-back AMC Movie Talk for the day. Like I said, you'll have to forgive us, but we're getting ready for this big party tonight and this big live special event, which, once again, we hope you tune in and join us. You'll be able to find the link this afternoon, actually. We'll put the link up this afternoon for the live event tonight that's going to go live at 6 p.m., Pacific Standard Time, that's Los Angeles time, 9 p.m. East Coast time, that's New York time. And we hope that you tune in and join us and start tweeting some questions to us at AMC Movie News. And don't forget, guys, lots of great movies playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and, of course, your movie ticket information. If you want an audio-only version of this episode, look in the description of this video and you'll find links to our podcast feed. And make sure you click the thumbs up button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I want to thank, of course, the guy joining me right now, Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero or on Instagram, dennis.tzng, and I look forward to the party tonight and seeing some of you guys over there.
Open bar. Anyway, and of course, you can find me on all the various social media networks, just on Twitter, on Facebook. Follow me there at John Campia. And I want to thank Jonathan over there who's doing the switching today, and thank you to you guys for joining us. Hopefully, we'll see you tonight. My name is John Campia for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.